Bavaria, early 1920s, a time when the world is trying to recover from the horrors of the Great War. Far from the big cities, among the hills, life seems to flow according to an age-old patriarchal order. Farm, family, work. But it's here, at a remote farmstead named Hinterkaifeck, on March 31st, 1922, that a nightmare will occur, forever burying the myth of rural idyll. Meet the Gruber family. The head, grumpy and miserly Andreas. Living with him are his wife Cecilia, his adult daughter Victoria, and her two children from her husband who died in the war. And also the maid Maria, who had worked for them for only a few days. It's important to understand that this was not a friendly rural idyll. The Gruber family was quite well off and at the same time had a bad reputation among the villagers. Andreas had a difficult character. He constantly clashed with neighbors and got into fights. Cecilia, the daughter, and Victoria were often victims of his domestic violence. The Grubers lived almost isolated on their farm. In winter, they worked alone, hiring workers only during sowing and harvest. But servants rarely stayed because of Andreas' difficult temper, and they would contact locals only when it's absolutely necessary. Silence. That was the first thing the neighbors noticed. No smoke from the chimney, no sounds of children. On April 4, 4 days after the murders, Cecilia's teacher worried about her absence and raised the alarm. What do the arriving people see? 4 family members, Andreas, the elder Cecilia, Victoria, and little Cecilia, were found murdered in the barn at the threshold. Their bodies were piled up, partially covered with hay, and an old door placed on top. Maria Baumgartner's body was found on the floor in her room, and Joseph's corpse lay in a baby carriage. All 6 had crushed skulls and wounds from some sharp object. In little Cecilia's hands was a clump of torn-out hair, which was later found to belong to her mother. An entire family was killed, 6 people, from the elderly to a 2-year-old child. The weapon was just a simple hoe, and the killer was cold-blooded, cruel, and just disappeared without a trace. But the most chilling discovery came later. Sometime before the murders, Victoria started feeling that someone was watching her, and once she noticed a strange man near the yard. Andres also saw this person, but didn't give it too much importance. But few days before the tragedy, he told neighbors strange things. He told that he found unknown newspapers on the property. Also, he heard footsteps on the attic when nobody should have been there. And the key to the front door suddenly disappeared. This leads to a terrifying conclusion. The killer didn't break in. He was already inside. He had been living in the attic for some days, watching the family and waiting for the moment. It's believed that one of the victims was still alive for some time after the attack. All of them had terrible injuries from blows with a hoe. The crime scene looked so shocking that the investigation was confused and poorly handled from the very start. Understand the context. 1922, Germany is humiliated in economic collapse. Millions of impoverished, embittered people, psychologically broken veterans, roam the country. The police can't cope. Finding one cruel maniac or drifter in such a flow of desperate people is an incredible task. Moreover, the investigator on site acted unprofessionally. They trampled evidence, allowed the bodies to be buried before a full examination. The strangest thing, after the murder, the criminal stayed in house. For several days he fed the livestock and stocked the stove. Dogs followed his trail, but lost it near the forest. Robbery wasn't a reason. All the money and jewelry were untouched. And bloody footprints showed that the killer was probably a man wearing heavy boots. There were many suspects. Embittered neighbors, but there was no robbery. A patient from psychiatric hospital Lawrence S. He hanged himself, leaving a note. Or was it simply a serial drifter killer for whom the Grubers became random victims on his bloody path? Every theory has weak points, and none are 100%. The first suspect was Lawrence Schlittenbauer, whose alibi looked doubtful. Furthermore, he changed the position of the dead bodies when he entered the barn with the neighbors. However, his guilt could not be proven. About 100 people were questioned, but nobody could explain what happened. The Hinterkaifeck massacre remains one of the darkest mysteries in criminology. We can build theories, suggest motives, but the person who held that hoe probably will never be known. In 2007, hoping for modern technology, an exhumation was conducted, but DNA analysis didn't yield a sensation. All the evidence, all the witnesses, all the suspects are in the past. The firm itself, considered cursed, was demolished in 1923. Now in its place only a meadow, a cross, and a small chapel. This crime shocked not only Germany, but it became the most famous unsolved cases, surrounded by legends and unanswered questions. What really happened that March night? The firm no longer exists, but its ghost, the ghost of silence and fear, still lives in history as a secret the 20th century took to the grave. So what do you think about it? Write in the comments. See you next time.